The House committee investigating the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol held its first hearing last night.
There were graphic firsthand accounts of the riots, and it was all laid out live on primetime TV. CBS 2's Skyler Henry joins us live from Capitol Hill to break down the hearing. Good morning, Skyler.
Hey there, good morning to the both of you. Certainly eye-opening testimony, as well as never-before-seen video of what happened on that day. So much so, it's why lawmakers on this committee feel as though former President Trump, those in his inner circle, as well as others, were responsible for, in their words, an attempted coup to try to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Now, some of the testimony that we heard from last night included one of the officers who responded initially to the Proud Boys, who was injured as rioters tried to make their way into the Capitol.
What I saw was just a war scene.
In its first public hearing, the January 6th House Select Committee presented dramatic testimony from a U.S. Capitol police officer who was injured in the violent insurrection.
There were officers on the ground, they were bleeding, they were throwing up.
The panel blamed former President Trump for the events that day in 2021.
We have a breach of the Capitol.
And during the primetime televised hearing, aired a never-before-seen 12-minute video of the deadly riot.
On the morning of January 6th, President Donald Trump's intention was to remain President of the United States, despite the lawful outcome of the 2020 election.
January 6th was the culmination of an attempted coup.
The committee of 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans presented video statements from supporters of President Trump who face criminal charges in the riot's aftermath.
I did believe, that the election was being stolen, and Trump asked us to come.
The House panel showed Trump administration officials, including former Attorney General William Barr, saying they didn't believe Mr. Trump's baseless claims of a stolen election.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was.
Several days of hearings are planned. Right now, we know of the next 2, scheduled for this coming Monday and Wednesday.
Now, House Republicans have already come out to try to say that this committee is illegitimate, saying that they will conduct their own analysis to try to figure out what happened on January 6th and who was behind it. We should mention that the lawmakers on this committee say that in addition to the number of people that were involved, several GOP members of Congress tried to get pardons for their involvement on that day. Guys.
Skyler, what's the committee's strategy in the coming weeks as we expect to hear even more about why they believe this is an attempted coup?
Right, well, so they will attempt to put this timeline together, similar to what we saw yesterday. Detailed. We'll hear witness testimony. We'll see never-before-seen video, also trying to follow the money, who knew what, when. Those sorts of things will be important. I can tell you that we will hear from especially significant members who this committee feels will be important to try to convey that message. Former Vice President Mike Pence, his chief legal counsel, will be testifying. Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, who we know former President Trump tried to lean on to try to change some of those election numbers in that state, will also be testifying. Something I'm especially interested in is hearing from General Mark Milley, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who said in one of those recorded depositions that they were actually getting the call from Vice President Pence to try to get the National Guard and other members out there to try to help Capitol Police, not the White House. That is something else that I want to hear from, and so that is what could be expected in the next few weeks.
Yeah. And Skyler, we heard Ranking Member Liz Cheney lay out the committee's discoveries to this point, as well as call out her Republican colleagues. How significant was that?
Right. Very much so. I mean, Congresswoman Cheney has been ostracized to an extent by her Republican colleagues, especially for participating in this committee. But to hear her sort of lay all of this out in this timeline and then go on to say that for those who were involved on January 6th, she said, there will come a day when the former president will be gone, but your dishonor will remain, while also calling out those Congress members who were seeking those pardons. I think certainly speaks volumes, and then obviously she is only one of 2 Republicans serving on this committee, so definitely interesting to see what happens next in terms of how everything fares within the GOP.
Yeah, so much surprising information coming out just yesterday, so much to come. Thank you, Skyler.